This is the video for Lesson 3, Addition and Subtraction Word Problems, the written practice, numbers 1 through 30. So the first 6 problems actually go along with the lesson, addition, subtraction, word problems, and it says that we are to identify the plot, meaning separating, combining, or comparing, write an equation, and solve the problem. So the first problem says, the 7th grade winner ran the mile in 5 minutes and 8 seconds. The 8th grade winner ran the mile in 4 minutes and 55 seconds. How many more seconds did it take for the 7th grade winner to run a mile? So since it says how many more seconds, that's our clue that we are comparing, so that's our plot. And when we're comparing, we take the greater number, which is 5 minutes, 8 seconds. And we subtract the lesser number, which is 4 minutes, 55 seconds. And that gives us our D, which is our difference. So now we just need to solve this. So the easiest way is to just count up from 4 minutes 55 seconds up to 5 minutes 8 seconds. So 4 minutes 55 seconds after 5 seconds would get me to 5 minutes, and then 8 more seconds would get me to 5 minutes 8 seconds. So 5 plus 8 is 13 seconds. The other way that we could have done it would be to convert both of them to seconds. So the 5 minutes would be 5 times 6 is 5 times 60 is 300. So 308 seconds, and then 4 times 60 is 240 plus 55, so 295. And then you'd subtract those two numbers. But like I said, the easiest way is to just recognize them as times and count up. Number 2 says, Lori, Moesha, and Carrie went to the mall. Lori spent $20, Moesha spent $25, and Carrie spent $30. How much did they spend in all? This is a combining problem because they're talking about spending in all, and they all have different parts. So the plot for this is combining. We're combining how much they spent to find out how much they spent in all. So when we use a combining problem, we take sum, and then we add more. And in this case, we're going to add more on top of that to get the total. So sum is Lori's, $20. Some more is Moesha's, $25. And some more is Carrie's, $30. And that's going to be our total, T. And in this case, it's pretty simple to solve. 20 plus 25 is 45, plus 30 is 75. Carl bought a foot-long sandwich. After he cut off a piece for his friend, his sandwich was 8 inches long. How much did he cut off for his friend? So this one is a separating one. Basically, if you picture Carl, he separated his sandwich into 2 pieces, and we want to know how much was in each piece and how much is left in the end. So when you're doing a separating problem, you start with the amount you started with, which for Carl was 1 foot of sandwich, and then you subtract off how much he gave the person, so some went away, and the book uses the letter away. We don't know how much went away yet, so A, and then what's left is 8 inches. So here, since we ended with inches but started with feet, in part of our solution, we're going to want to convert the 1 foot into inches as well so that we can go from there. So we know that 1 foot is 12 inches minus whatever he gave his friend gave us 8 inches. So if you think about it, 12 minus what is going to give you 8? Well, if you count down from 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, so that's 4. So he gave his friend 4 inches of sandwich. Irina and her sister put their money together to buy a gift. Irina contributed $15. Together, they spent $32. How much did Irina's sister contribute? So this one's a combining one. They put their money together. That's your clue. So our plot is combining. And when we combine things, we have sum plus more gives us the total. So Irina's is sum. Her sister's is more. We don't know what that is yet. And that equals the total of $32. So then we have to think, well, how do I get 15 plus something to equal 32? Well, you can count up from 15 to get to 32, or you could subtract 15 from 32. Either way, you would find out that Irina's sister gave 17. Last week, Benji read 123 pages. This week, Benji read 132 pages. How many more pages did Benji read this week than last week? So I see the word more. I'm comparing this week to last week, so my plot is comparing. When I compare, I take the greater number, 132, minus the lesser number, 123, and that's going to give me my difference. Well, 132 minus 123 is 9, and this is in pages. And the last of those word problems, Anli's mother bought a dozen eggs. Anli ate 2 eggs on her salad. How many eggs are left? So this one's a separating one. We had a dozen eggs to start with, we took some away, and then there's some left. So we have separating. And when we do a separating problem, we have what we started with, 1 dozen, minus what we took away, the 2 that Anli ate, and then that equals what's left. And we're not sure what's left yet. So a dozen eggs and 2 eggs. And here again, just like when we were doing the feet and inches, we need to tell what a dozen eggs means. Well, that means 12 eggs minus 2 eggs means there's 10 eggs left. Problem number 7 says, write a story for this equation. 10 minus 4.05 equals C. So since it's talking about money, we could say that somebody went to the store. So we could say that Janet went to the store with $10. She spent $4.05 on hot Cheetos. how much money does Janet have left? Since it's subtraction, we know that we could either do a separating or a comparing, and I'm going to assume we want to do a separating, since again we're talking about money. We could have done a comparing, and we could have said Janet has $10, Monica has $4.05. Who has more, or how much more money does Janet have? So there's a bunch of different possibilities for this problem. Number 8 says, which two values of n make this equation true? Now, if n is in between the two lines, that means absolute value. And the definition of absolute value is how far from 0 a number is. So the distance from 0. So if we were to look at a number line, and we go 1, 2, 3 places away, one of those options would be positive 3. But we could also go on the other side of 0, 1, 2, 3, that's negative 3. Both of them have a distance of 3 away from 0, which means their absolute values are the same. So n could either be 3 or negative 3. Arrange these numbers from least to greatest. Negative 6, 5, negative 4, 3, negative 2. So we want to start with the least, that's the most negative number. So negative 6 comes first. The next most negative is negative 4, then negative 2. Then the next less positive, I guess you could say, is 3, and then 5. And the next problem, they want us to tell which one's less than or greater than. So we're going to put symbols like less than, greater than, or equal in the dots of 10, 11, and 12. So negative 5 is obviously less than 1, and if we're comparing numbers, it's the one to the left is the smallest, the one to the right is the biggest. So negative 1 and negative 2, if you wanted to draw that out on a number line, you got 0, negative 1, negative 2. Negative 2 is farther to the right, that means it's smaller. Negative 1 is bigger. Negative 10 and 10, negative numbers versus positive numbers, the negative one will always be smaller. And then the absolute value of 10 and the absolute value of 3, just like in number 8. If the number in here is the same distance away from 0, then it's going to be equal. And negative 10 is 10 places to the left of 0, and 10 is 10 places to the right. So the distance is the same. So those two are equal. And then in 12, it's actually a confusing problem to read, but it's just saying negative 5, and then how far away is negative 5? So this is really 5 over here. The distance from 0 to negative 5 on a number line, which is 5, how does that compare with the absolute value of negative 5? Well, the absolute value of negative 5 means how far away from 0 is negative 5. Well, that's also 5 places away. So those two are equal as well. In number 13, it says, refer to these expressions to answer the questions that follow. 6 plus 4 equals 10, 12 minus 7 equals 5. And these might be some new vocabulary words for some people. A minuend, you can kind of see the word minus in there, M-U-N-M-I-N-U, minus. A minuend is the number that's being subtracted from. So 12 is having something subtracted from it. So the minuend is 12. Which numbers are the addends? You can see the word add in there. Addends are the two numbers that are being added together. So they are 6 and 4. Refer to these expressions to answer the following, or the questions that follow. 2 times 6 equals 3. 20 over 5 or 20 divided by 5 equals 4. Which number is a divisor? You can kind of see in there division. What number is something being divided by is what a divisor is. So 20 is being divided by 5. 5 is a divisor. Which numbers are factors? Factors are two numbers that are multiplied together to get another number, or multiple numbers. So 2 and 3 are factors. Consider the following expression. 4 times the quantity, meaning in parentheses, 37 times 25. How can these numbers in this expression be arranged to make multiplication easier? When I see something like 25, I'm hoping that maybe there's a 2 or a 4, because a 4 would mean it'd be 100, 2 times it would be 50. Those are easy numbers to work with. So I see that there's a 4. I want to put those next to each other, and I want to multiply those first. So what I'm going to do is first do 4 times 25 together, and then I'm going to put parentheses around them to do it first, and then multiply it by 37. Because multiplying something by 100 is pretty easy. You just stick 2 zeros at the end. B says, which properties did you use to arrange the factors? So the first one that we used when we moved the 25 next to the 4 was the commutative property. So if I would have just done 4 times 25 times 37, that uses the commutative property. And that says that you can put things that you're multiplying together in any order as long as it's only multiplication, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't change your answer. The next thing that we did was we put the 4 and the 25 together in parentheses, so we do them first. And that's the associative property. And that tells us that we can group things in parentheses in any way we want. Associative. And that will not change your answer. And then the last question says, what is the product? Well, now that I've rewritten it this way, 4 times 25 is 100. 100 times 37, like I said, you just take the zeros from the 100 and put it at the end of what you're multiplying it by. So we have 37 and then 2 zeros. (16) says simplify and then compare. So basically they're asking us to find the answer on each side. 36 minus 17 is 19. And 17 minus 36 would be negative 19. So we're adding and subtracting integers. And when things are opposite signs, you subtract them and then put the minus sign on the bigger number. So 19 is going to be greater than negative 19. Use the numbers 5 and 12 to provide an example of the commutative property of addition, which is what we just talked about in problem 15, I believe it was, that the order that you put things in doesn't matter. That works for multiplication and addition. So I can do 5 plus 12, but that's also the same thing as putting them in the opposite order, 12 plus 5. And then it says use the numbers 2, 3, and 5 to provide an example of the associative property of addition. And that's the one that says you can put parentheses in anything and it will still work out. So we can do 2 plus 3 plus 5. And then we could move the parentheses over and we could do 2 plus 3 plus 5. And remember, parentheses are what we would do first. So on this side it tells us 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 5 is 10. On this side it says 3 plus 5 is 8, plus 2 is 10. But in both cases our answer is 10. And this is just one of the right answers for number 18. You could reorder that in any way, and you could have 5 plus 2 plus 3, and then 5 plus 2 plus 3, grouped differently. It says graph the numbers in this sequence on a number line. So a number line, remember, looks like this. We have 0, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Positive and negative. So negative 3 means go to the left 3 places. So that'll be right here. Negative 1 means go to the left 1 place. Right here. I'll do those in a different color so you can see them better. And then 1. And then 3. When 15 is subtracted from 10, what is the difference? 10 minus 15. So we are subtracting 15 from 10. So 10 minus 15 means we go to 0, and then we still have to go to the left 5 more. So the answer is negative 5. If 6 plus 3 is 9, then what other addition fact and 2 subtraction facts are true for 6, 3, and 9? Well, just using the commutative property, we know that 6 plus 3 is 9, so then we can do it in the other order. 3 plus 6 is 9. And then if we were to take 9 minus 3, that's going to be 6, and 9 minus 6 will be 3. 22. If 2 times 4 is 8, what other multiplication fact and 2 division facts are true for 2, 4, and 8? Well, we have 2 times 4 equals 8. That's what they gave us. So then 4 times 2 must be 8. Or 8 divided by 4 is 2. Or 8 divided by 2 is 4. Which whole number is not a counting number? That's 0. We don't count to 0. We just start at 1, 2, 3, 4. 0 is a whole number, though. What number is the opposite of 5? Opposite means we're going to take the opposite sign. So we're going to change the negative into a positive. So the opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. Says, for problems 25 through 27, find the value of the variable and name the property illustrated. So problem 25 says, if 5 times t equals 5, then t is what number? Well, the only way to get the number back when you're multiplying is if that number you multiplied by was 1. So t has to be 1, and if you remember, that property is the multiplicative identity. And it says that a number times 1 is itself. Identity means you're going to get that number back. Identity. If 5 plus u equals 5, what is u? Well, again, now if we're adding, the only way to get the same number back is for that number to be 0 that you added on. And since we're getting the same thing back, it's going to be another identity, but since we're adding, it's called the additive identity. And then if 4 times 0, or 4 times x equals 0, x is any number times 0 equals 0. So x must be 0, and that's because of the multiplicative property of 0. Multiplicative property. And that says any number times 0 is 0. And the last problem's 100 minus $9.90. So we could just go from $90.90 up to 100. So $90.90 plus 10 cents gets us up to 91. And then that we would need $9 more to get up to 100. Number 29, we have $89 times 67 cents. We can do that the long way. So 89 times 0.67. 9 times 7 is 63. 7 times 8 is 56, plus 6 is 62. We put a 0 because now we're in the tens spot. 6 times 9 is 54. 6 times 8 is 48, plus 5 is 53. So then we have 3, 6, 9, 5, and we have to move it over 2 decimal places. And so we end up with $59.63. And then the last one is $72.18 divided by 18. So how many times does 72 or 18 go into 72? Well, 18, 36, 54, and then 72 is 4 times. 4 times 18 is 72. So then it goes into 1 0 times. So we have to bring down the 8, and it goes into 18 1 time. So you have $4.01. On Monday, Robert's bank account balance was $140. On Tuesday, Robert withdrew $56. On Thursday, Robert deposited money into his account. On Friday, Robert's account balance was $180. How much did Robert deposit in his bank account on Thursday? So we had 140 plus minus 56 that he withdrew. You have $140 he deposited, or was in his bank on Monday. He withdrew, which means minus 56 on Tuesday. And on Thursday, he deposited something. We'll call it D, deposit. And in the end, his bank account was 180. So we need to know what's 140 minus 56. So we have 4, and 13 minus 5 is 8. So 84 plus whatever he deposited is 180. So that tells us that it must have been, 96. So 10, 180. So his deposit was $96.